Steve Lentz, we're glad to have you today on the Monell Show. Thank you so much for joining us. How you doing today?
It's good to see you, my good friend. Doing fine, thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Business today. As an attorney, what can you say about the word business when you hear that word?
It's expansive. One of the things about being an attorney is there are different attorneys who do different things. If anybody out there's thinking about getting into the legal field, if you're a argumentative type person, go into trial law. If you're concerned about social issues, you might want to go into family law. But my group and my particular specialty is complex business.
Okay. Wow.
And
complex business.
Complex business. So
two words that goes along together.
That's right. So we do everything from starting companies to merging them with other companies to selling companies. So business is a journey.
Right. Well, tell us about the starting part of the business now. Yeah. Nowadays, everybody want to start a business and they come up with an idea and they want to go out there and start a business. Yeah. What are the first few things they should think about first?
Well, I think there are three things, a three-legged stool for sure that you want to have. Number one is you want to make sure that the legal part of the business is started properly. And one of the great things about the internet is you can download anything.
Right.
One of the horrible things about the internet is you can download anything.
Correct.
So a lot of people will download forms off the internet and start a company. And what you have isn't wrong. It just may not be right. So you started something. What you got from whatever service you went to, is you're going to get what you ordered. But it may not have been the right thing. Or you might start filing like a articles of organization for a limited liability company, and you file your articles and you get word back from the state that you are formed, but that's just the beginning of the actual paper trail, if you would, for the company. You need to have minutes, resolutions, an operating agreement, and so all of that is something that an investor would want to see, or a bank. All of those things are part of what comes behind that first moment.
True.
So first of all, the legal stool, the legal leg, I think needs to be created properly. Second of all, I think having a business plan really helps.
Sure. Where are you going? What you doing?
The Bible says without a vision the people perish.
Sure.
And so a lot of people have a great idea and they just decide, okay, I'm going to do this, but they don't have a plan. And again, I'm informed by my faith, and so I'm always looking to see what the scriptures can teach me that are tremendous wisdom from God. And one of the things that the scriptures teach us is who would build, a building without first counting the cost.
Right. Yep.
And so I think having a business plan is absolutely essential for success. You can start something, but it can cost you a lot more money than you ever dreamed. I would say that any business plan that anybody draws up, just plan on it taking 5 times as long and costing 5 times as much money.
Time and money.
As you think.
Wow.
Because there's no free lunch out there. And everything's more complicated than you think, especially in the day and age we live in. So I think having the right legal documents, number 2, having a good business plan, and number 3, have a finance person in your world.
Wow. A lot of people are missing that part.
Having a team, whether it's an accountant, whether it's a good bookkeeper, payroll. If you start having employees, I think it's a big mistake if you have more than 3 employees not to have a payroll service do it for you.
Wow.
Because people end up in a lot of trouble, on taxes and unpaid withholding and things like that. So having a good legal team, having a business plan, having a finance person in your world. If you can't afford to do those 3, you really shouldn't start the enterprise.
Wow. This is very good to know. Now, I know you're an author, 3 books. Your latest book, Bulletproof, your business. Tell us exactly, people have ideas floating around. I come up with an idea, I want to do X, Y, and Z. How do you protect that?
Well, the title Bulletproof really came from my experience as president of Middle East Television. I was the president of the largest superstation in the Middle East. A superstation is a local TV station that takes its signal and bounces it up on a satellite and covers not just its local area, but now a huge footprint. And that makes it a superstation. The Middle East Television was a station in South Lebanon in a war zone.
Wow.
And we bounced our signal off of the Amos satellite, which was the Israeli military satellite. So it covered all of Israel, but every Arab country. So we had the entire Middle East blanketed with this superstation. And when I took the assignment, I thought, boy, this is going to be tremendous, sexy. It'll be,
Fun,
exciting.
right?
I'm going to be in the Holy Land. And in
Complex
fact,
business.
we did a lot of our business in Israel. We did our politics in Jerusalem. We did our marketing and advertising in Tel Aviv. But the operations, the actual station was in a war zone in South Lebanon.
Interesting.
And so in order to even go to work, I had to go across the border with no visa. I would go from North Israel into Lebanon. I'd have to give the Israelis my passport, so I walked in with no papers. I was the guest
Wow.
of General Lahad,
Wow.
who was the general for the South Lebanese Army. And when I walked across the border on the first day, and that's what this particular book is talking about, it was an eye-opener, because as I walked across the border to assume my new position as president of Middle East Television, my head of news met me, but he was also my bodyguard. He was the head of security. And his name's Salam Eid, and he's a dear friend to this day. And his daughters are my extra daughters. I've got 2 extra daughters because of Joyce and Jenny. But so he met me, and he put a flak jacket on me.
Wow.
And I'm thinking,
You-
what's going on here? And then we go to the car, and there's a 3-car convoy, and the car that he was putting me in was a second-hand Land Rover that we'd gotten from the French embassy. It was armored, so it had 3,000 pounds of lead in it, and windows that were about that thick. I went to put my bag in the back. I couldn't even open the bag. It was too heavy. I was so embarrassed.
Wow.
And so finally I get in the seat with Salam, and there's an AK-47 between me and Salam in the
Interesting.
seat.
Running a business.
I'm wearing a flak jacket, and I go to put my seatbelt on. He popped the seatbelt. He said, "We don't wear seatbelts here. In case we're attacked, we need to get out quickly." And then he looks at me and said, "Would you like to go visit, the General Lahad, because you're here as his guest?" I'm thinking, no, I want to go home, and so, we went, to visit the general. This is the first day on the job. And as we went to visit General Lahad, Salam told me, he said, "Now I'll interpret for you. We're going to go to his compound. He will not shake with his right hand today because he's getting over an assassination attempt." His wife was a beautiful young French woman, and during the day he would sleep because all of the guerrilla warfare would happen at night, and so he would take naps in the afternoon. So his wife was training with a trainer, and it turned out the trainer was Hezbollah. And so as General Lahad came in from his nap to greet his wife, the trainer pulled out a gun from her towel and shot him 3 times at point-blank range. And he put his arm up, and the bullet went out his elbow. And Slav's explaining this to me on the way over to the general's house.
Are you going to meet him?
He says, "No." So he probably, he's not going to shake with his right hand. He's getting over an assassination attempt. Yeah, and I'm way out of my comfort zone.
No, for sure.
And I'm headed somewhere with this, because I'll tell you where the Bulletproof comes in. So we get to his compound, and there are guards fully armed outside. And I meet the general, and again, he's shook left-handed. He has his arm in a sling. And he offered me hospitality, which in our culture, that would mean, fruit, something, nuts, something like that. Well, they brought out this huge bowl full of cigarettes. That was his hospitality.
The culture,
of
huh?
every brand you can think of.
The
You know,
culture.
it was like, you know. And so we sat down, and as I'm sitting down in his living room, there are picture windows that line the whole place, overlooking the mountains of South Lebanon, and the windows are vibrating from the shelling that's going on.
So
in
you're
the
meeting with this
mountains
guy and just shells flying out there.
out there, you know,
Nice.
and I'm hearing, you know, muffled sounds, and the windows are vibrating, and the guy's got a sling, and he's getting over an assassination attempt. And I'm thinking, what is this man going to ask me? I brought him greetings from President Clinton, greetings from Chairman Robertson of Christian Broadcasting Network. And I'm thinking, what is this guy going to ask me? And he looks at me and he says, tell me about Monica Lewinsky.
So that's the story you wanted to get into.
First
Not
question. You know, so backing up,
Right.
what I realized from the time I hit the border to the time I had my very first meeting, and the book Bulletproof is talking about many of the meetings that we had
Sure.
there. I realized that you know, when you walk into a war zone, all of your senses are heightened. And I would say the best way to protect your business is realize you've just stepped onto a battlefield.
So you equate that running a business like in a war zone.
It is absolutely a war zone. And one of the things as a business lawyer that we work on very hard is to help our clients see the possible problems that are out there.
Well, it looks good to be a businessman. It looks
Everybody
good to have a
comes
nice
in-
title, but
Yeah.
nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes.
Right, and you don't start a business thinking it's not going to work. Or you don't enter into a partnership thinking that your partner's not going to like you before it's over with. So everybody, you know, is excited to start a business, but a good business lawyer is going to talk about, okay, let's talk about if things don't work out.
What are the things that don't work out normally in the business?
Oh, lots of things like vision. You know, you can have one person who has a partner who wants to take the profits and reinvest them in the company for the long-term success. And maybe you have another partner who just wants to take the cash right now. He's got financial problems. He needs money right now. He doesn't care about tomorrow. If there's 10 cents left over after expenses, I want it, you know. And so you can have a vision problem where, you know, the allocation of funds could be a major difference. You could have a philosophical problem where possibly, you know, one partner doesn't treat your clients the way you want them to be treated. One of the ethics I have, and I've had to reconstitute my own law practice at least 4 times over the last 40 years.
You've seen things have changed.
And each one has been because I've had to adjust because I've gotten connected to people that do not have my same vision or don't have my same ethic. I've been working since I was 12. I've worked, you know, in restaurants, and I've worked as a busboy. I've worked washing dishes. I've worked in family businesses. But basically, I've been working since I was 12 years old. And when I went to law school at William & Mary, I worked full-time and went to school full-time. And so, you know, it was a lot of work. And so on the other side of that equation, one of the things that I did as working my way through law school was waiting tables for Colonial Williamsburg at the Williamsburg Inn. I'm a member, I expect you to be impressed, of the Order of the White Jacket, which is students who have worked their way through school at William & Mary waiting tables at the Colonial Taverns.
Which is different nowadays. Huh?
Williamsburg Inn, yeah, you know. And so one of the things I learned with waiting tables is that you have to earn your tip at every table. So the table that you call on, they don't know whether the last table was a good table or a bad table, and you have to earn your tip. So part of the ethic I bring into my work experience is I appreciate my clients.
Good question here. I want to ask you this about that part. Clients in your business, okay? How do you treat them versus how they turn on you, how they work with you in the business? From that experience that you were about to explain to us, I want you to kind of connect it with, you know, running a business and protecting your business against clients turning against you on that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's good to be selective about your clients. And when I was a brand new lawyer, basically I took anybody who walked in the door because I needed work. And that was really a formula for disaster because a lot of people would come in and they wouldn't be good people, or they would be people who wanted to use you or manipulate you but not pay you. So managing expectations on the client level is a huge thing. First of all, people can know, they can tell whether you are sincere and honest or not. And they can tell whether you appreciate them or not. And so all of my attorneys in my group and in the firm that I'm working with now, we make it very clear how much we appreciate our clients. There are thousands of lawyers, and I have clients in all 50 states and in several countries. So there are hundreds of thousands of lawyers throughout the country. They could have gone to any of them. If they come to me, I want to make sure that I never give them a reason to go anywhere else. I want to treat them right. I want to return their phone calls. I want to be accessible to them. Sometimes we'll go above and beyond, what we would need to do in order to be able to service those clients. I've got one of my lawyers on my team. He's a legend. He is one of the main lawyers for one of my international clients, and he has slept at the office sometimes because of the time changes to make sure that he was available to that client for an important conference call that they were going to have. Which, so appreciating the client, I think, is a big deal, but managing expectations. So, as the client comes on board, we use what's called an engagement letter in a law firm. Once I've sat down and I've interviewed my client and they've asked me to do a legal assignment, I will generate an engagement letter to say, this is what you asked me to do, and this is what the cost is.
So is that a way to bulletproof your business?
It's a way to bulletproof the business. So you're making it clear this was the deal because, people have selective hearing.
Right.
And, it's important, especially if an assignment gets dragged out over a long period of time. Sometimes the client will forget what the deal was. And so, I used to put pictures of my family all around my desk because I was doing so much work for free. My wife, Kathy, who we're about ready to celebrate our 48th anniversary, one day she said, if you're going to work for free, then pick another profession. Right. And so I put my family's pictures out to remind me,
this is it.
I need to get paid.
It's purpose.
So bulletproofing your business, first of all, having the right documents, managing expectations, choosing the right clients, and making sure that you're going to be able to do what they're asking you to do. A lot of people will overpromise and underperform, and I think it's a bad idea. I think it's important to overperform and underpromise, so that
Right. This the world nowadays. Let's look at the internet, social media, where the world is becoming smaller and smaller. People meeting folks online and they want to start ideas and businesses and start something, right? Culture. You meet somebody from overseas and they have a great ideas. You have the resources. Say, let's do partnership here. How should that work?
Well, again, I think going back to the scriptures, which matter to me. The Bible says that how can two men walk together except they be agreed? So forming partnerships, I think it's very important that you really, to the best that you can, identify, are we going to be able to walk together? Do we have the same vision, and do we have the same ideas? But as far as the legal framework, there are many different wrappings that you can do for partnerships and for ventures, joint ventures, and things like that. So again, I think it depends on going to what I would say is a specialist. So a few years ago, I had my knee replaced. I did not go to my dentist to get my knee replaced, even though he has a medical degree. Right. I went to an orthopedic surgeon. And the same way in this field, you can have friends who maybe they have some legal training. You can even have some lawyers that are friends, but just because they're a lawyer doesn't mean they know anything about business law.
I have a question here when it comes actually to the business deal. You've handled several of them the last 40 years of practicing law. Tell us about the worst one or one of the worst one you've seen. In terms of bulletproofing your business, something goes wrong between partners or mergers or acquisition.
Yeah. Well, really, I can just give you my own journey. One of my partnerships fell apart because the gentleman who I'd invited into my firm, it didn't cost him anything to get in, which was a mistake. Because again, if somebody doesn't have skin in the game, they treat the whole thing differently. And I thought we were aligned, but it turned out that he had a completely different worldview than I did. He was abusing the clients. It was very difficult. He would scare the clients. He would over lawyer everything, and everything was too expensive. And so he'd get the assignment done, but then the client would leave and never come back. And so I had to separate from that particular partner. And, there again, a great scripture from King Solomon, who was the richest king in the world at the time, probably one of the wisest men in the world. He said, in the book of Proverbs, he said, that a wise man sees evil and hides himself, but a fool plunges headlong into it. And so I'm looking at this partnership. We need to split up. This person came in with nothing, and I needed to get away from him because I felt like he was really hurting my reputation and driving clients away. And he was demanding an outrageous settlement to be able to leave. He came in with nothing, and he wanted a whole lot on the way out. So I had a choice, and it was a disaster because here I've got clients all over the world. He's another complex business lawyer. And so I've given him primary contact with some of my clients, and it's going to be problematic. And so I had a choice. I could fight him over the separation, or I could just hide myself from evil and build the future. And so I used one of my staff attorneys, and I said, I want you to figure out the settlement, get me out of this. I'm going to pay attention to building the future.
Wow.
And so it was a disaster because I picked the wrong person. I gave him way too much benefit without him having to earn it. I gave him way too much trust without monitoring him because he had tremendous credentials, and I paid the price for it.
And how do you go into business? You have partners, you have suppliers and all. What are some of the things you should look for as warning signs before you enter into business with somebody?
Well, I would do your due diligence. I mean, I would do credit reports on them. I would get references. I would talk, if he's a vendor, I'd want to know, I would want to go talk to some of their clients and see were they happy with them or not. You've got lots of choices out there.
True.
If it's somebody you're going to bring into the company, then again, I think it's very important to do really strong background checks and do good references. I am a hopeless optimist, and so I'm always seeing what I believe is the best in people, believing the best in people. And I have trouble going to the dark side. I'm just not wired that way. And so I have to guard myself because if I feel like I like the person, I like the way they present, I like their personality, I feel like, okay, this person can work out fine. But again, if I haven't done the background on them, maybe I brought something in that could really hurt me. So I think you have to be a student, more of a student, and have a little bit more depth in the way you interview someone and look into their background.
I heard a wise businessman said one time, the more you investigate, the less you have to litigate.
That's good. I agree with that.
And one of the things we know in our society is a lot of business are popping up every day, but within 3 to 5 years, they're gone.
Yep.
And they're gone for several reasons. Of course, financials and lack of planning, but also referring to your book, they did not do proper diligence of bulletproofing their business. In moving forward now, for our viewers, quick things you should want to share with them about going into business for themselves or partnership before we finish.
Right. I think let's go back to the planning part. Again, it's essential that you have a business plan and that you have somebody really vet that business plan. Somebody, apart from a friend, an objective third party, find someone to go talk to, show them what you have in mind, show them your numbers, and get a reaction from them. Because again, most businesses fail because they don't have enough of a plan to withstand the length of time it's going to take. Everything you're thinking about is going to cost you more and take longer than you think. And so if I have a brand new business that comes in and wants to, use me, be a vendor or someone else, a lot of times it'll be like, come back in a few years if you're still here.
Right.
And so again, that's why it takes longer, because you've got to build the street credibility that you're actually going to be able to be around for a long time. One of the chapters in Bulletproof, that I talk about is a chapter that's called "Don't Quit." And the story is that I have a good friend. His name is Jake Steinfeld. Many years ago, he was very well known as a fitness. He actually started probably the personal fitness business. Body by Jake was his brand. And when I was working at the Family Channel, we were all tasked with starting new networks as the senior vice presidents. And so I worked with Jake, and we started Fit TV. And Fit TV was his idea. It was modeled after headline news, a 1 hour clock. The first 15 minutes you would do aerobics. The second 15 minutes maybe do some education. The next 20 minutes do anaerobics, and then the last 10 minutes sell product. And you would keep changing the workouts on that clock, but people were working out in their homes. And it was his idea. And when I went to him, I said, Jake, I've heard you have this idea. Let's team up together. And I was representing the Family Channel at the time, actually International Family Entertainment. Later, we sold to Murdoch for $1.8 billion. So I was one of the senior vice presidents. And so I said, Jake, let's do it. He said, well, there's a problem. I said, what's the problem? He says, well, you're International Family Entertainment. You can start this network or stop it, and it's not going to affect you. You're still International Family Entertainment. All I've got is my name. My name is my brand. And so I can't afford to be associated with anything that fails. So if you're not going to finish this, I'm not interested in talking to you.
Condition on the table, huh?
Okay? So he understood how important his name was. And I would say I've always been concerned about my name. The reason I broke from that gentleman, such a painful, disruption of my business plan, was because my name was in play. And I wasn't going to let his behavior tarnish my name. And so, anyway, fast forward. Jake owned 100% of the company. And I said, if you do this with International Family Entertainment, you're going to get watered down. You're going to not own 100% of the company anymore. And in fact, over time, you'll probably get diluted. That's the actual legal phrase. Many times. But your 50% of something of value is going to be a whole lot more valuable than 100% of nothing.
Wow.
I said, so it's important to stay with it. And one of his mottos was, don't quit. As a trainer and as a business person, he believed that, the longer you stay in the fight, the more chance you have of winning. And so his motto was, don't quit. And I would say that to business people, that it's amazing what momentum can be created just by not giving up, not going away. you know. So Jake signed on, and it's in my book, Bulletproof. And then when we sold to Murdoch, then Fox Sports bought Fit TV, and he got diluted again.
Wow.
His share went down, value went up. And Fox Sports didn't really understand what he did, didn't understand the whole business model. They were tweaking everything. It was not what he had envisioned. And he's not just a dumb jock. He's a brilliant marketer. And they didn't understand that about him. And so they disrespected him. They didn't really use him. But when we were working together, we inserted a clause in his ownership of Fit TV that said if the network was ever sold, he had a first right of refusal to buy it, which was a joke at the time because he didn't have enough money to buy anything.
A good thing, right?
And so everybody said, who cares, we'll put it in there. Well, when Murdoch then, under Fox, sold it to Hendricks, to another whole network, they didn't ask his permission. They kept trying to shove him out. They disrespected him. They didn't use him as talent, didn't use his marketing ideas. But he said, I'm not leaving. It's my network. Now, he had a fractional share by this time, but he said, I'm not leaving. Don't quit. So I'm sitting in my office here in Virginia Beach one day, and I get a phone call from Jake on the West Coast. And he said, Skipper, and he gives everybody a nickname. It's a bit long story, but I said, Skipper. I said, yeah. He says, hey, I just want to thank you for putting that clause in my contract. I said, what's up? He says, well, Fox sold the whole enterprise to Hendricks, and they didn't ask my permission. And so I called him up. Then my attorney called and said, you might be interested to know you just sold something you don't have a right to sell. And they said, well, name your price. And he said, so I've got a check in my hand for, and I won't give you the exact figure, but it was multiple millions of dollars.
Sounds ching-ching to me.
Because of
Lots of it.
Because of that clause, but because he wouldn't quit. So my advice to business people is don't give up.
Right.
Stay on the field. There's a whole chapter in the book Bulletproof about that. Don't quit. It's amazing if you're the last person standing, the credibility it brings to you, even if people know that it's cost you a lot more than you thought it was going to, that you were not going to let your reputation be tarnished, that you're good for your word, you're going to do what you say you were going to do, that in the end, that builds a momentum that you can't put a price on.
Awesome.
Don't quit.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve Lenz, author of 3 books, the latest one, Bulletproof. And if you like what you see, what you hear today, subscribe, like, and share, and follow, and get this book, Bulletproof. Steve Lenz, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Thank
Good
you.
to talk to you.
Thank you.